Hey, thanks for spending a few minutes with Phil. So I've been talking about adapting to change. I've been talking a little bit about complaining. And I've been asking the question, are you a complainer or are you an adapter? Do you adapt to change or you complain about changing? Incidentally, I need to look in the mirror and ask that question of myself. And I brought up in one of my other videos about some changes some people in the Bible had to go through. But I didn't bring them all up. Let me share with you a few more people in the Bible who had to go through changes. Well, there was Ruth. Ruth was a Moabite who became the great-grandmother of King David. That's quite a change. There was Esther. Esther was an Israelite who became a queen in Persia. That's quite a bit of change as well. You know the story of Daniel as well. Wow. He went through all kinds of changes in his life. He went from being a slave from Israel to being in the courts of the king at that time. Changes. Jonah went through some changes, some tough changes. And of course the apostles, they went through changes as well. You can imagine being a fisherman and next thing you know, you're traveling the known world, preaching Jesus. It's quite a bit of a change. But I want to talk about someone who did not want to change. He had had enough of change, I guess, and that would of course be you, Moses. I'm talking about you. Now, if you're studying the scriptures, you know that Moses went through a lot of changes in his life. He was born in the home of an Israelite, but ended up in the home of Pharaoh and his household. Change number one. Change number two, he had to flee Egypt and ended up in the desert of Sinai. That's change number two. Became a shepherd. Maybe that's change number three. Change number four, God told him to go back and speak to Pharaoh and free the people of Israel. That's change number four. And number five, he ends up leading the people out. But you know that Moses, he didn't want to go. He didn't want to go back to Egypt anyway. Matter of fact, when God spoke to him and said, hey, look, you're going to go back to Egypt, you're going to go to Pharaoh, and you're going to tell him to let my people go, Moses said, I don't know. I don't know, man. I'm not very good at speaking. I don't think so. Matter of fact, it got so bad that Moses ultimately said to God, send somebody else. I don't want to go. It would seem that Moses had got pretty darn comfortable in the wilderness. He was out there, maybe in the beginning when he first fled out into the wilderness, maybe he told everybody out there, hey, I was going to be Israel's deliverer. I wanted to be Israel's deliverer. And then maybe after a couple more years, he would be like, hey, you should have seen me. I was in Pharaoh's court. I was a big guy there, and I was going to be Israel's deliverer. And then maybe after 10 years, he might have said, I could have been Israel's deliverer. After 20 years, he might have said, I thought I was Israel's deliverer. Maybe I wasn't Israel's deliverer. And then after 40 years, he began to say to himself, this desert's not so bad. I got a tent now. I got a wife. I got a couple of kids. I'm pretty happy now. And that's when God showed up and said, things are going to change. You're going back to Egypt and you're going to talk to Pharaoh. Things change. Sometimes things change by your own doing. You make mistakes, or I make mistakes. Sometimes they're in the hands of God. Sometimes life changes and you have got to change with it. One thing I found out in life is there's just times you can't go back. Things have changed now. You must adapt to the difference. You can't go back. That's all I got. Thanks for spending a few minutes with Phil.